Okay, cool. Hello, everybody. I'm Jamie Brooks. I do Amazon ads for a number of authors, and I spent 35 years in the corporate world as a systems and data specialist, reporting specialist in the UK. When I left, I did some contract work for an author doing a deep dive into all their data and stuff. And I thought it would be handy or good to come here and talk to you all about the way I do things and what I've seen in dealing with lots of different authors, different genres, and all that. So they say, yeah. The motto over the years has been, if we've got the data, we can do anything. And one of the problems we have with Amazon is getting data. When I was asked to speak, I'd exchanged emails with Craig, and one of the things I said in one of my emails, which was something I sort of really meant, was that artists that create hope, escape, and culture should not be made to push their rock uphill. So if you've gone through the hard work of actually writing a book, then why should it be so hard for you to get it out there and for people to buy it? So this is the focus for this talk. I mean, it's a massive subject. I wanted to focus on these areas. They're kind of the main areas where I think there's an issue, and I think I can provide a bit more insight to what you normally get. And I'll go through these one at a time. First of all, I'd like to know some questions. So can I see a show of hands as those people who are authors? Okay. And a show of hands to those people that represent publishers or the associated. Oh, okay, all authors, pretty much. Good, cool. Okay, so how many of you have just seen AMS? You've not used it yet? Okay. How many of you have used AMS? Oh, right, okay. How many of you would consider yourselves an expert? How many hands there? Good. Because I was going to tell you to get out. Who's intermediate or thinks they're intermediate? Okay. And beginner, novice? Come on, there were more hands than that at the beginning. Okay, all right. Okay, cool. Now that gives me an idea of pitch. I don't want to sort of rush ahead and lose you. I just need to know where you are in that so that it makes it easier for me and makes the understanding hopefully easier for you. Okay, so AMS is bad at showing what works. The main thing that I've heard so much is ACOS, which is only really looking at cost of sale. And AMS shows trackable sales and reads only. So what that means is you don't get to see where all the clicks came from or were caused by. In fact, you don't get to see very many of those at all. One of the reasons is reads and sales are only tracked 14 days after that initial click. And in the reads case, if your average read rate is 200 to 300 words per minute, that's 40 to 50 pages an hour. So if somebody reads the book on the hour to work, they probably aren't going to read the book within the 14 days. So all of that extra read they do on the book that they clicked won't show on AMS. The other thing that AMS doesn't really go into at all is read-through. So if you have a series, then who comes back and reads book 2, book 3, book 4, and how does that actually mean, what does that actually mean to the revenue you're going to get ultimately at the end of the day? And the last thing is bought and read on another device. Somebody sees it on their phone, pick up the Kindle, search it up on that, you're never going to get the trackable revenue. So this is a pie chart. Hold on, back. That's the one I want. So you're only effectively getting half the revenue coming through as trackable. And that's the stuff that you are going to use to decide whether an ad is effective or not. Interestingly as well, that's the same data that Amazon have got. So when the when the algorithm does its job, that's only really looking at trackable revenue as well, not the whole picture. when I've done tests on authors that are smaller, where I can track what comes through on KDP at the end of the day, I see them getting double the amount of money coming through on KDP that's shown on AMS. Or quadruple. And one of the authors I did at one time was getting 7 times more money on KDP than was actually showing as trackable revenue on AMS. So that's a factor. Okay, so let's look at ACOS. I need to get closer to this thing. So this is nice, simple maths. We've got a series book here, and it's only £1, because that makes the math easy. It's got 100 pages, because that makes the math easy. And what I'm showing here is that you've spent £500, $500 on ads for this book, and in terms of sales coming back, you've only got 100. So the ACOS for that is 500%. So who at this point would think it's probably not worth keeping that moving? Right, okay. So let's have a look at how this alters when we start to factor in those things I was talking about before. So here we've got the same book with the same ad, but this time we've got 10,000 page reads with 100 pages per book. That's 100 books. Now immediately, by factoring in the extra money that comes in from those reads, we're showing the ACOS has already dropped to 345%. Okay? Now, that line on the top is effectively the same as those two things down below. Remember that, because that's going to feature in a minute when we start to talk about the read-through. So it's exactly the same numbers, it's just all of the same stuff on one line. Okay? So read-through. So when an author comes to me, the first thing I need to do is find out what the read-through actually is. This top line, or the top, this laser pointer is doing my head in. This top line here, so we've got book 1, the next one up is book 2, book 3, book 4, and so on. So you can see here there's been freebies on book 1 here, 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 and that one I think is book 5, that there's been a deal, a bub deal. So when you actually look at the read-through, it just doesn't actually make any sense. So by taking out of the equation those freebies, and usually it works out that I only count 1 in every 100 freebies that goes out, you can normalize the line and make it so that you can actually see book 1 and book 2 and the new releases and the books going through. And once you have that, you can quite successfully say, of the 100 people that have bought book 1, 80 of them come back to do book 2, 70 book 3, and so on. Does that all make sense? Anybody confused by that? Cool, right, good. Oh, no. So that's that top line I asked you to remember. Okay, looks complex. I'll go through it. So here we've got the series of 5 books. We've still got the 500 we spent. The sales have dropped with the read-through that I just showed you. So you've got 100, 80, 70, 60, and the same with the reads. So that is applied to those. And as you can see, because people have come back and bought that much of the book and read that much of the book, you get 360 plus the 162, which actually is 522, which means that it's actually 104%. You're actually starting to make profit on that book. So where we would have probably turned that off as a keyword ad or an actual campaign that you spent 500 on, this probably in time would actually start to make you money and make you profit. Now if I up the page reads to 50,000, which is 5 times more, we've still got the 360 coming through, but this time we've got 810 coming through on the KMP reads. So now this is 234%. So depending on how many reads you get and what your read-through is, that initial ACOS, hold on, I've got a slide, there it is. That initial ACOS, the 500, 500, is now 43, which is a lot more healthy. Okay? So what's good and bad? We know that when you look at AMS, you're not going to see all the revenue. Half of it, maybe a quarter of it. So here I've put spots in. So for example, we spent 100, we've made 100. But that's more likely to be 200 if you double it, because only half of the revenue is showing. So it's actually, the line here is lower. So you could have, in theory, spent 50, so spent 100, made 50, and it's still probably going to make profit when it finally comes through on KDP at the end of the day. You're not going to know that for sure because they don't track the revenue, or they can't track the revenue. So here, if you spent 200 and you got 100, it's on the border. It's probably okay. This one, 300, 100, that's a no-no. That one's really bad. And the same, if you spend 400 and you get 250 out, that's probably going to be making a profit when it comes through at KDP at the end of the day. Okay? Make sense? Good. Right, which button? So here's the data science. So I took all the keywords from 6 authors. Yeah, 6 authors. And this is looking at the amount that was spent and the amount of revenue, trackable revenue, that came through. All of these blue dots represent a keyword and where it features on that graph. These ones are on still. I'm letting them run. And these ones are off. Okay? Now on here, that you notice these two here, they're actually off at the moment. The reason for that is there's an odd thing that I've noticed on all authors, is that a particular keyword will go through and then there will be a big spike one day. No clicks. The day the sales happen, there will be a click. But somebody will buy 12 books. And then they'll go away and we'll never see them again. Amazon, I've spoken to them about it. They can't explain it. I suspect what that is somebody buying 12 copies of the book to then try and make them appear on the also bought carousel on Amazon. So those ones I've turned off. They are profitable, they're still profitable, but it doesn't look like we're going to get any more sales because it's been like that for a couple of months. There haven't been any more clicks afterwards. As well as that, there are some under here that don't look particularly healthy that are still on. Now in that case, for example, I've got a thriller author. I run a keyword on Stephen King. She makes sales off of Stephen King, but it's not going to make a profit. It's low, but it's there because when somebody searches for Stephen King, I want her books to appear in the carousel so that the brand gets out there and so that people who are looking for thriller authors start to remember what that book cover looks like. Okay, do you see the little yellow squares? I'm going to zoom in now to, rather than being 500 spend, 500 revenue, it's going to be 50 spend, 50 revenue. So there's a massive lump here and here. Now those are kind of fresh out of the blocks. Those are ones that I've quickly tuned out. And here you can see all the ones I've tuned out because they're just not profitable at the end of the day. And all the ones in here are the ones that are creating profit. Okay? And then all the keywords. So the spend on that big blue dot out there, I haven't got my glasses on, I can't read that. So that's like 18,000. And the money that's coming out in revenue, trackable revenue, is 45,000. So we're going to have an auction at the end of this, and the one that bids the most, I'll tell them what that keyword is. Okay. So this is about seducing new blood, new people into your book series. If you as an author just basically have your own little fan base and they buy book 2, book 3, book 4, you're going to end up with spikes like that at the beginning. And things will drop off. This is the same numbers as we were looking on that example I was showing you. So that will slowly drop off over time because people won't read through. But if we seduce new blood in with ads, you can see they start to build layers in. And these people here that missed book 1 and right at the start, they will read book 2 and they will read book 3 at the same read-through rate. One author that I signed up a year ago, I did this. Time to get up. Morning. Yeah. Where was I? I've completely lost my track. Yeah, so one author, I did the read-through exercise to work out what the numbers were. And I did check it about a month ago, just to make sure that with all the new ads and the extra revenue and all that sort of stuff, that the read-through hadn't changed too much. And interestingly, the read-through numbers on a 12-book series, the numbers hadn't altered any more than 1%. So I think read-through is consistent. So depending on how much people like your book, the same number of people will come back and buy book 2, book 3, book 4. So by basically attracting new blood in to read your book 1, you're going to get revenue, and it will layer up like that. This is a real example. So this is a release of a book in this series. So you've got book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4 are going up. Next release, next release. And as you can see, there's a spike in new blood on those releases and after those releases. And the plan is to try and grow that line as much as possible when there isn't a release as well. Because that's new people coming in that are going to earn you the money on the first book, but they're also going to earn money on the read-through too. Okay? Yeah, that was a good trip to Tesco. I don't think they'll let me back in. And I stood there for 3 days and nobody bought them. And if you, there's Snoop Dogg, isn't there? So whose idea was it to put Snoop Dogg's face on a bottle of wine to sell it? Okay, so keyword farming and testing. So you need to find similar books to yours. Kind of obvious. You need to find associated books, which is a little harder. And the next click will be interesting. And then other keywords that you can also use can come from, the genre-based ones, the rocket-like ones. In terms of effectiveness, the top one, the finding the similar books, targeting other authors, is always the one that gives you the best return. Okay, so associated books. So I found a target, I've put that up as an ad, and 2 of those lines make profit. So we've got urban supernatural crime fighters selling to Terry Pratchett fans. Clean holiday romance books selling to Amish fiction fans. Yes, no? Okay. And vampire romance books sell to shifter romance fans. Right. Okay, so hands up, who thinks number 1 is the one that doesn't work? Okay. Number 2? Number 3? Yeah, cool. No, you're right. Which surprised me, because you would have thought vampires being kind of shiftery. Okay. So this is a snapshot of a carousel on a book I chose, which is by an author that's very popular. I think it's got 200,000 reviews on it. And this is the advertising line. So when you write your ad, if you basically win the bid, you're going to appear in this carousel, or if you get into the bid. Now, interestingly here, where is she? Oh, I'm going to have to put the glasses on. What am I looking for? Okay, so this is just basically the line. So these people have either by an auto ad or by choosing a particular keyword that's based on that author have shown up on here. Okay? This is the also boughts for the same book. Now, does anybody want to hazard a guess at what the book is? Because I've not revealed that. So it's obviously Freedom McFadden. And where's that one? I can't even see it with those on. So in here we've got Geneva Rose, that perfect marriage one there. So Geneva has basically managed to get herself into the also boughts. She's sold enough on Freedom McFadden to get into that also bought carousel. That's kind of where you want to be. If your ads are really successful, then if they get enough sales made, then rather than appearing on the ad carousel, which has that little sponsored up by it, you'll appear in the also boughts, and people tend to trust that a lot more. So you will see a lift at that point when you make it into that carousel. So I've got some code that can extract this. And this is most of the books that are on that complete carousel, bearing in mind you've got to turn it several times. Okay? And as you can see in there, there's quite a lot of different authors, different books that make up that also bought carousel. So those are the list of authors that are on also boughts. So if Frida wanted an ad made for her, they would be the keywords because they're in the also bought. You would also get series names that also appear, and ultimately book names too. Again, author names, the ones that shift the most. Series names, not so much, not too bad. Book names, a bit harder because it's more targeted. So we'd use those words to set up an ad and put that for Frida, and in theory that would pick people up from there. And they would be good words. Because remember, the algorithm that runs that also bought is the algorithm that sends the trackable revenue through to your AMS. So this is the view on AMS. And the way that I would load up an ad is I'd put all those in at a reasonable bid. You need to basically be up in the search. You need to be at the beginning of the carousel. You need to put a reasonable amount of money up in order to learn the intel of what's going to work and what's not going to work. If you put in a little bid, you're going to appear right at the end. The intel you get isn't going to be particularly positive because it's going to take lots of people a long time to get there. So I go in very quickly afterwards in the next sort of couple of days, and for the next 3 weeks, every few days I'll go and tune that ad, and I'll turn off the ticks in the side and get rid of the junk and keep the good. Now, most people normally tell you to farm the keywords, lift them out and put them into a new campaign. But the algorithm's already running on here. It's already getting sales. So you're better off leaving them in here and just turning off what's not working. Now, AMS is not great at showing you what's working because you've only got ACOS. You need to do the math. You need to consider reads. You need to consider your read-through. You need to make a judgment call based on how well an ad is going to perform for you. That's tricky. You're going to have to flip between sheets. You're going to have to look at reports. You're going to have to do some legwork. The way I do it is, this is my working spreadsheet. So down the side here is the list of all the keywords in a particular campaign. And then along here, hold on, I'm going to use this pointer because I can read it out better. So we've got your impressions and the clicks, the Jamie factor. So that is 6 figures of impressions, 2 figures of clicks, and of those clicks, 8% of them have converted into a sale. So this one, 4199, 99% of them, have effectively 100% of them, all the clicks have caused a sale. And from here, I can go and check by clicking on the A what Amazon is actually showing for that particular book, so I can see whether it's in genre. That's important if you look at it and say, that's not working, it's not in genre. But what is really important is looking at it and saying, that is working, it is in genre, what is working, what is selling? And I can go and check Amazon to figure that out. I can also click on a particular keyword. So the blue filled in ones are reads, the red filled in ones are sales, the green is the clicks, and the purple is the cost of click. So if that purple superimposes itself over the green, you're paying £1, $1 a click. If it's over the top, you're paying more than £1. If it's below, in this case, it's about 75. So I can use that to make a judgment call as to whether this word is working or not. And as you can see, it was slow out of the blocks, but I let it run because we'd had a sale. And by looking at the read-through and the reads, it wasn't too badly in deficit, but then suddenly it starts to pick up. So bear in mind that what happens over time, keep an eye on it, because something that's really, really negative, have a look at how it's tracking, because it could actually suddenly start picking up and carry on going. So back to here as well. Now, there's a search terms report in AMS that you can download. I use it in here as well, and I can double click any one of these, and it will give me a list of what the customer actually physically searched for. So in this case, I just chose Karen Rose as the keyword. That's the one that's basically getting the hits. And you can see here that the customer searched for Karen Rose, 11,000, and there were 11,000 impressions, 17 clicks, and the sales and everything else based on that and how much we spent on that word. Cheetah Karen Rose is coming up behind with 3,000 impressions, 10 clicks. Now that's important because if I want to look at Karen Rose as a target and find her as also boughts and also reads to put up in the new AMS ad, if she's got lots and lots of different series, I know that Cheetah is probably the one to look at the also boughts and the also reads for, and not necessarily our other series. So having a look at your search terms, which is a downloadable report from AMS, can give you clues as to what's working, what's not working, and also what you might want to put a negative keyword on. Because some of these, you might decide it completely out, and you might want to put a negative on for one of the words in there just to stop them happening. This one, so this is it was based on an auto where paranormal vampire romance was coming out as being a good target. Now you can see on here that 1,000 impressions have gone to people who searched it but in the wrong order. And because I put that in a broad term, it's picked that up. And you can see the page reads, the sales associated with that. And it gives you an idea of what's working and what's not working. And you can get more intel from that as to what to use as a keyword. I've put this one up specifically because, to be honest with you, I don't use broad unless it's this scenario where it's something that is completely a really broad thing. Most of the time I'll use phrase, and sometimes exact. So distraction. So we're back to Frida. Keep an eye on that one with the daisies, and this one with the big word wife in it. And is it this one I want to? No, let's go. So here I've created a defense ad. So that's basically Frida's name, titles, series, and anything like that. And now this carousel is now filling up with Frida, which means it's pushing the competition out. So if somebody's come for Frida and they look on this carousel and they say, well, that book looks good, and they go and buy that one instead, then she's lost out. But by pushing the competition out, they don't have that chance. You're preventing people from being distracted from your book if they came to you. Okay? You do pay for those clicks, so you need to factor that in. What's worth more to you, the chance of losing a customer or retaining more customers but paying a little bit more? It's controversial. I've heard different opinions on it. This is a new blood ad for Frida. No, for me on Frida. So no, I haven't written those books. And I must say, there's a note here that says, mention the tash. So that was, I had a beard, I shaved it off half, took a photo, and then shaved the rest of it off. I didn't go out like that. Okay, but you can see, we've now edged in there. We're in that carousel. So people who come for Frida, they might decide to buy my book, especially when they see how many reviews I've got and what star rating I've got. Now, when you fill that carousel up, people get worried that somebody's going to come in and click your book 2, and then your book 1, and your book 4, and your book 5, and cost you loads and loads of money. Now, I have experimented on this, and this does actually work. There's another report you can download in AMS, which is called Gross and Invalid Traffic. So what happens is, they can't do it live, so they take it off to one side, and they will actually physically reduce your impressions or reduce the amount that you have of your clicks for traffic that's coming from the same computer. So if somebody goes and clicks all of your titles, you're not going to pay for every single one of those clicks because it will show up in here, in gross and invalid. Didn't believe it, tested it, they were right. Contamination. Okay, so this is based on a real case for one of my authors. It's all about how you're plugged. It's really important that when you get a plug from anybody, anywhere, that the genre is right. So that people who basically come to see you are people who are used to that genre. And I'll show you for why. So again, back to Frida. Now, if you look here and here and here and here, can you read that from there? Anybody can't read it, put your hand up because it's important. Okay, so those are knitting books. So somebody in a Facebook knitting circle of thousands has basically said, this is a great author. And this one is the also viewed. If they haven't got enough information about how many people have also read and also bought your book, they'll show the also viewed just to get something up there. The problem here is the people that look don't even need to buy for it to appear. And it can contaminate what people are seeing, the customer's recommendation as well. So this is real revenue, real author. So this is the Christmas drop, because everybody's eating turkey. The plug by one author who was in a completely different genre, they had all the right intentions, plugged this author who was completely in a different genre. But the fall off didn't start there. You can see the revenue still coming in. And on AMS, this is the AMS spend, and this is the AMS trackable revenue. It's on a different scale, don't get scared. If it was on the same scale as the revenue, it would just be like a little line of ants running along the bottom of the screen. So I was still getting from AMS the fact that ads were working. But you can see the revenue just starts to fall through the floor. I tried a few different things to try and stimulate growth. No joy. And by that point, I just basically said, right, that's it, we're burning a building. So I completely burnt the ads, completely rebuilt them, pulled out all of the workable keywords that were running before, that were doing well, and put them into groups, the best ones, the good ones, the ones that still had quite possibilities, and the ones that I couldn't make a judgment call yet because I hadn't had enough information to turn them on or off. And even now, the ones that were really well producing still are affected by that contamination. So be really careful. If you get plugged by anybody, your name gets mentioned by anybody, rather than get them saying, go and check this author out, if you like thrillers, then go and see this author. And be really, really adamant that if anybody gives you a plug anywhere, that you make sure that the people that are going to go to Amazon to click you are looking in the right genre for your stuff and not just other people. Okay? Does all that make sense? What time have we got? It did fix it. It stimulated. It got things running again. But the top words that were performing previously never got back there. They were literally lying on the ground with their legs in the air. And I think I ended up turning a lot of them off because we weren't going to get them back. Hold on, let me do... I think you should come up and talk into the microphone if you're going to, for the streamers.
On the charts that you were showing earlier, you're only advertising the first book in series, or are you advertising more than one book?
It depends on the ad. Depends what you want to do. I would normally do all of the ones in the series. I did play around with doing it in different ways. And in some cases, if you want to stimulate other series for an author, I would put all the books in the series that I'm particularly advertising on, and maybe put the book ones of other series in there so they don't fill up the carousel, but they're just there. You know, so if somebody looks at it and says, oh, that looks interesting, and clicks it, then we may pick up some sales from there and get somebody reading through to a new series. Okay?
Hi there. Thanks for the talk. I write mysteries, and I've had good good success with Facebook ads, and I'm about to do a big push into Amazon ads.
Right.
I went to a presentation from Amazon where they talked about their new ad accelerator program that they're just starting, where you commit to 25,000 over 3 months.
Right.
A sponsored ad, not the lock screen ads that they've had
Yeah.
for a while. Are you at all familiar with that? And also, just in general, what would you say about how your methods differ from those of the inside Amazon people, if you happen to have an opinion on that?
The major flaw is the fact that seeing what revenue comes back out and whether that's working for you isn't necessarily very clear on AMS at all, and I suspect it will be the same. So you need to be careful because you need to factor in read-through. I mean, my thriller author is the only one that sells more hard copy or paper or ebooks. All of the other authors in all the other genres it's always more KMP. So by ignoring that in the equation of is this working or not, you're going to turn stuff off that would actually be profitable at the end of the day.
Hi, my name is Naomi, and I am trying to find my Amazon readers and grow that. I
Right.
do very well selling direct, like $1 million in the past 4 years selling direct.
Cool.
So not and do a lot with Facebook ads, and I've tried Amazon ads, and I feel like I'm trying to sail around the world with a map that says the Earth is flat when it comes to Amazon ads. So I'm wondering if you say you have clients and everything, how long does it take? Because I'm told Amazon ads take a while, whereas Facebook ads is boom, if you've got a good system, you've got your data tomorrow. How long does it take to actually build out a fully scaled ad system? And then on top of that, what ROAS do you look for in a good functioning ad system? Or I guess on Amazon they call it ACOS, but your return on ad spend for every
Right, okay. So
dollar. Yeah.
ignore ACOS because it's only telling you about sales
Okay.
on partial revenue. Factor in your reads, work out what your read through is, factor that in as well. But the best place for you to go is your also read, also bought on Amazon, because those authors have been bought by your people and they've also built the other person's book. So chances are they're going to be in your genre, and chances are you're going to be barking up the right tree. If you can pull them off and put that up as a keyword ad, that would be your starter. But when you say how long does it take, it's an ongoing thing because I will retrawl. So if I get good hits on one of those also boughts, then I'll use that one moving forward and trawl on that author and get their also boughts and also reads and through the keywords. But usually you would see revenue tracking almost immediately. It would build up over a period of time, and sort of 3 or 4 weeks you'll have a good idea as to whether things are going okay or not. But bear in mind you're turning off the rubbish in the meantime, so your cost will come down, and in theory your sales and reads will go up.
So would you be looking at 6 months in, if you're maintaining your ads well, you spend $1, you get 2 back, you spend $1, you get 3 back, you spend $1, you get 20 cents back?
That really depends on the genre of the book, and how out there you are as in terms of the carousels. So there's no guarantees. I mean, listening to Steve yesterday, it's not his machine where you put $2 in at the top and 4 come out the bottom. So yeah, you just need to monitor it and keep an eye on it. But if you include those extra factors, it gives you a much better idea of what's profitable and more confidence in that case, and you can watch things grow as you go on what's trackable and see what's profitable.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions. Do you use ASINs ever in your?
Yes.
And okay. Second question is, when you're testing an ad, what are the minimum number of keywords and the maximum number of keywords you're testing when you're starting out a new ad?
Ooh. Well, that's an interesting question because it's kind of different from me, because I'm doing it on I'm using code, and I'm doing it on industrial scale. So when I do a trawl, I'd probably trawl 300, maybe a few more authors, series and stuff like that, and put them through in either in the same campaign as before if there's room, or open up a new campaign. ASINs work well. I use them mostly on defense ads though, because when So when you say ASINs, you're talking about specifically ASINs on a kind of a manual campaign, or are you talking ASINs on an auto campaign? Manual. Okay. To be honest, that doesn't make much difference. If you're doing a defence ad, do your names, do your books, do all that sort of stuff. Do the ASIN as well. See which ones work. But a defence ad should always run massively in profit on AMS. If it's not, then you need to get out there. You need people to see you because they're not coming to Amazon to spend their money with your name on their lips.
When you talked about bidding and stuff and putting yourself up high in
Yeah.
the search results, do you use Amazon's suggested bid, or do you put your own in based on like an average of what the range that they give you?
At risk of being slated, I don't actually adjust my bids at all. I pretty much use the same bid. Slightly different in the US to the UK because of the currency change.
For
But
every-
I keep it up there.
what do you, is it based on genre?
A little, but no, not really. Because ultimately, if you don't get into the top part of the search, and you can see that from AMS, it tells you how much you're in the top of the search. And you're not in... I mean, how many times do you want somebody to scroll a carousel before they see you? The chances of them actually clicking on that or not being distracted by somebody earlier in the carousel are much higher. So by putting a low bid in, you may think you're saving money, but in the long term, you're probably losing money because you're just not getting in people's face. It's like if you go to the supermarket and you're looking at the wine section for carrots, if your bottle of wine's on the bottom in the corner, nobody's going to see it, nobody's going to buy it just because it's not in sight. It could have the best label, but if nobody sees it, if you don't get it in front of somebody's eyes, and impressions could be somebody's already gone through 20 pages of a carousel. You get an impression, but it's not necessarily a good impression because they probably ignored it.
So you're aiming for the top, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can try and get away with low bids. Experiment. The key thing here is to test it. Try it. If it works, keep it. Do more of it. If it doesn't work, throw it away.
For optimization stuff, are you using any, I know you said your bids are all the same. Are you using any sort of dynamic bidding, bid placement?
I did. For the last year, I've mucked around with that, and it doesn't actually seem to make much of a difference. All it seems to do is allow the algorithm in to make guesses for you, and they don't seem to work out that well. You end up spending more. So I keep it focused. The KISS rule seems to be working better than actually trying to use all of the different options.
So are you using typically just fixed bids in
Fixed
general?
bids. Yeah, straight out of the block, fixed bids. Because if the algorithm hasn't had time, it can't make the judgment for you. I've just run out of time. Sorry. But I hope that helped. I hope that made sense. I'm going to go outside and probably have a sit down and cry. So if you want to, come up and give me a hug and ask me a question if you need to then, all right?